What's going on, dudes and dudettes? Ole Gamer Joe here with another review for you today. We are looking at Prehistoric Dude, just recently released onto the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and Steam PC. It will be coming to the Nintendo Switch as well as of August 14th of 2020. The game was developed by Light Up and was published by Ratalaika Games, at least for the console versions. And currently, at the time of this review, the Xbox One version has a 20% discount, bringing it down to $3.99. Normally this game is priced at $4.99 here in North America. Prehistoric Dude is a metroidvania of sorts, which has you playing as the caveman Dude. Dude is hungry for his favorite snack, which is ham on the bone. So one day he is eating it normally when all of a sudden a dinosaur comes out of nowhere, snatches away his ham. This makes him a pretty angry caveman, so he goes after the dinosaur on a quest to get his ham back. In order to get back to your ham on the bone, you're going to need to rely on a good amount of platforming. Unfortunately, the platforming in Prehistoric Dude feels, well, out of the Stone Age because it's not particularly responsive, and the climbing up of vines and other basic mechanics don't feel very sound either. This game also makes some very strange design choices in terms of combat, as you'll need to pick up axes, which are generally hidden in grass. You get them at random. This is even worse because some of the areas in Prehistoric Dude lock you in, so you in fact have to clear out all of the enemies, and you can easily run out of axes, which has you running back like an idiot, trying to go and collect them, and then going back to the room to take out the enemies. Even when you do manage to stockpile a bunch of these weapons, aiming them is an absolute chore. You have to be at just the right angle if you're going to connect with these enemies, and because these enemies can tend to move around in rather annoying patterns, you'll probably miss a lot and be back to the collecting pretty soon. Basically, outside of the areas where you are forced to do combat, I would just suggest trying to avoid it as much as possible because it doesn't feel good whatsoever, and you can't even jump on enemy heads to defend yourself. You just have to deal with it. The areas that you need to explore aren't huge. There are a few diverging paths, but for the most part you're not going to find yourself lost. The game does include a little bit of a map, which helps at least somewhat, but you're still going to be dealing with some horrendous combat and platforming, which makes the whole experience not very fun or enjoyable. At the least though, to break up the monotonous exploration, you do have some boss battles, which aren't particularly great either. Again, the combat system doesn't help much, but it's like the game knew it and designed some of these bosses in a way where you can deal with them without having to actually interact with the combat. Now, in an attempt to help alleviate the combat system a little bit, you can eventually get an optional club item, but again, it doesn't really help all that much because the core mechanics of this game are not good. Overall, in terms of gameplay, you won't find much joy in Prehistoric Dude. Graphically, this one looks mediocre to average, maybe even a little bit below. There's not a lot of detail to the enemies. They don't look like anything you haven't seen before. The environments are not interesting whatsoever. Your character, outside of that beginning story, doesn't really hold your interest. There's nothing really exciting or exceptional to look at in this game whatsoever, and that's not helped by a very repetitive and rather annoying soundtrack, which loops far too quickly. This soundtrack will definitely burn you out. You'll hear the same monotonous melodies over and over again, and it does grate on you and get under your skin. I was honestly just glad it was over. This isn't helped by the fact that the sound effects in this game aren't very interesting either. So just as I felt about the core gameplay of this title, everything about the presentation is just mediocre to below average. This is kind of a shame because I really like the setting of this game. I enjoy prehistoric 2D platformers. There's been some good ones over the years. Joe and Mac is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. I used to love that title. It has a great soundtrack and a great art aesthetic, and it uses the setting wisely. Unfortunately, Prehistoric Dude doesn't learn any lessons from the past. Instead, it is content with being a mediocre product. The poorly designed combat will probably stop you from ever even wanting to complete the game, but if it doesn't, there's nothing really else here to look forward to outside of the Platinum Trophy if you're really dedicated enough to get there. Overall, I just can't recommend this one to folks out there who are looking for Metroidvania-style games because there's far better options for sure. The gameplay misses the mark, the graphics aren't very good, and the sound doesn't help matters whatsoever. So if you're looking to dig up some memories, look elsewhere because this one stinks. We hope very much that you enjoyed our review of Prehistoric Dude today. If you did, consider hitting the subscribe button. Help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming. There are a ton of other ways to support I Dream of Indie in the description box, including our new merchandise store, or consider becoming a member today. Whatever you do to help I Dream of Indie, we thank you so much.